So welcome to our today's class, that is BMIS. And in today's class, we're going to talk about the index numbers. Now, when you talk about index numbers, in this case, these are what we call numbers that show the level of change as compared to the previous values or the previous numbers. Are we together? Well, generally, what we mean in this case is the relative changes of numbers as compared to the previous years. So you can just write and say an index number is a number that shows the level of a data. It's a number that shows the level of a data at a given data compared with the same previous, with some previous data, compared with some previous data. Say, it shows the relative change. Of variables for a given period of time. Let's talk about the purposes. The purposes of index numbers. Number one, the purposes of index numbers. Or on the purposes, you can also talk of it as uses of index numbers. Purposes of uses of index numbers. Number one, in measuring the changes in purchasing power. And the standards of living. Predicting business conditions. Number two, predicting business conditions. Number three, analyzing changes in imports and exports. Analyzing changes in imports and exports. The one, setting of government policies. Security issues. Determining the changes in industrial production. How many are those? Yes, those are enough. So you write and say, hapo chini, when developing an index, the following factors should be established. Number one is the purpose of the index number. Number two, the commodity to be included in the index number. Number three, the prices to be used in computation. The base period. base period. The average to be used, the average to be used, average to be used, and the average to be used, and the last one, the weights to be used, the weights to be used. Let's talk about the symbol index numbers. Now, index numbers are classified into three. So we have what we call the symbol index numbers, general index numbers, and also we'll be able to know of weighted index numbers. So let's begin with the symbol index numbers. Symbol index numbers. You say an index number is said to be symbol. An index number is said to be symbol. An index number is said to be symbol if it involves a single commodity, if it involves a single commodity, if it involves a symbol or a single commodity. It is also known as, it is also known as, it is also known as relative. It is also known as relative. It's also known as relative. Same. There are two categories of method. There are two categories of method used in constructing, two categories of methods used in constructing the index numbers. Used in constructing the index numbers. Number one is what we call the fixed base method. Fixed base method. And number two is what we call the chain base method. Fixed base method. And number two is the chain base method. Now, for the number one in this case, when we talk about the fixed base method, this is whereby in this case, the base period is fixed. And meaning that in this case will depend on the prices that will be given, whether it's talking about the prices of a given commodity. Now for the chain base in this case, the previous year's prices are the one that will now be determining them as the what? Their basis. Let's begin with the fixed base. Fixed base method. The fixed base method. And say, this is where on the fixed base, say, this is where the base period, is fixed. Base period is fixed, and the subsequent years are expressed as a relative. Subsequent years are expressed as a relative, and subsequent years are expressed as a relative of the base year. As a relative of the base year. So what we mean in this case, when we talk about the index, it will be given by the current value. You divide by the base value, then you multiply by what? 100. That is how you get the index. That is how you get the index. Current value, you multiply by you divide by the base value, then you multiply by 100. That is how you get the index number. With that, you can write an example. Say, compute the symbol price index. Compute the symbol price index for the sugar using the using year 2020, using year 2020 as the base period, So in this case, I will have the year. I will have the price for sugar. Now, in this case, let's assume to year 2020. Na tunataka kujua hizo miaka zingine zinakuja. Let's say that, for example, in year 2021, 2022, 2023, the price of sugar per kg, we can say now it's 70, 90, 120, and I can have 100 and what? 40, 140. So in that case, we've said you're computing the index number. And to get the index number, we said it is the current value, which in this case is normally represented by Pn. Are we together? You divide by PO. PO in this case is representing the what? The base value. And then you multiply by 100. So in our case, the base value in this case is what? Year 20. It will be 70. All over 70, you multiply by, which in that case, itakupea nini? 100%. Year 2021 is 90 over 70. You multiply by 100. Itakupea ngapi? How much is it giving you? And also this one is year 120 over 70. You multiply by 100. And then 140 over 70. You multiply by 100. This one is 200. This one is how much? How much are you getting in year one? In the year 2021? Pata ngapi? One? 128.57. And this one? This one you are getting how much? $171.42. That is how you compute the simple index using the what? Fixed base method. Using the fixed base method. Now, method number B is what we call the chain base method. 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 Right and see the chain base method. This is where the values of the previous year. This is where the values of the previous year are taken. Values of previous years are taken as the base. Are taken as the base values. Are taken as the base value. So in that case, for you to get the index, it will be the current value. Current value. You divide by the previous value. Previous value. Then you multiply by what? Then you multiply by 100. Then you multiply by 100. And that is how you'll be able to get that value. Now we can also as well have an example here. And the example that I'm going to do, I will do from the first paper. I will do from the first paper. The first paper in this case, I'm doing from the question of November 2019. November 2019, question 1B. November 2019, question 1B. November 2019, question 1B. You have in that? Okay. Or you are using which past papers? Okay, so this is what you do. You just write. Just write. Just write. The following data relates to the production of sugar. Following data relates to the production of sugar in metric tons. Sugar in metric tons. Metric tons. I mean metric tons. Metric tons in Kenya. In Kenya for the first 6 months of the year 2019. The first 6 months of the year 2019. We have the month, we have the production. January, we have 4563. February, we have 4245. March, we have 4841. April, we have 644. May, we have 5290. And in June, we have 5166. 5166. So required Roman 1, the fixed base relative index, the fixed base relative index, fixed base relative index. Roman number 2, the chain base relative index, the chain base relative index, the chain base relative index. Relative index. So ya kwanza is on the fixed base. And for the fixed base in this case, I can have the months here. We have the months and the production in what? In tons. And in this case, we have January, February, March, April, May, and June. Where January in this case is 45 what? 63, 42, 45, 48, 41, 46, 44, 52, 90, and also we have 51 what? 66. So what will be our base? Because in this case we are using the fixed base. Our base itakuwa nini? Yes, what will be our base? We've said for the fixed base in whereby the value for the first year or the first month will be the base values. And our base in this case will be what? 4563. So in that case, it will be 4563. You divide by 4563. Multiply by 100. No. Oh, in this case, the question was this way. Yeah? Sorry. Ilikuwa imesema March is 100 on the fixed base. The fixed base hapo ilikuwa imesema March is equals to 100. On the Roman number 1, we've said is asking you to compute the fixed base relative index. Na hapo wakaweka into brackets much is equals to 100. Sawa sawa. So ni kumaanisha our base in this case si year 1. Itakuwa ni which si January. Itakuwa nini? March. So in this case, this is 4841. Divide by 4841, you multiply by what? 100. Meaning that this one will be 4563. Divide by 4841, multiply by. This one is year 2. Will also be what? 4245. You divide by 48, 41, you multiply by 100. How much are you getting? 46, 44, divide by 48, 41, you multiply by 5290, divide by 48, 41, multiply by 100. The last one is 51, 66, 48, 41, you multiply by what? 100. Inakupea ngapi? How much is it giving you? Yes. So for this one, for year 1, it will be 4563. You divide by 48 what? 41, which in that case it is 94.226. 94.26. We also have 4245. Divide by 4841, which in that case is 87.69. This one we've said is 100. Manisha, that is the base. The other one is 4644. You divide by 48, 40 what? 1, which is 95.93. The other one, 5290. You divide by 4841, multiply by 100, which in that case is 109.27. And then the last one is 5166, divide by 4841, you multiply by what? 100. 4841, then you multiply by 100, which in that case is 106.71%. That is how you get that when you use what? The fixed base method. Now the second one is now on the chain base. Chain base, that is Roman 2. Now for that case also I will have the months here: January, February, March, April, May. I will also have the what? June. So in this case there is production, and production the same there is 4563. This one is 4245. The other one in March is 4841. April is 4644. And then in this case is 5290 and a 51 what? 66. Now for the chain base in this case, we've said that the current, the previous value in this case is what we take it as our base, meaning that this one we just take 45. Remember index is Pn over Po. You multiply by, it will be 4563. You divide by 4563. You multiply by what? 100, which in that case will be 100. Same case here, you take 4245. The base will be the previous year, which is 4563. You multiply by what? 100, which in that case is 4245. You divide by 4563, and that will be 93.03%. Still on this, we have 4841. Previous year, which is 42 what? 45, multiply by 100. So that is 4841. You divide by 4245, multiply by 100, which in that case is 114.04%. The other one is 46, 44. You also divide by the previous year, which is 14, 48, 41. You multiply by 100. That is 46, 44. You divide by 48, 41, which in that case is 95.93%. Then we also have 5290. You divide by 46, 44, which is the previous year, 5290, divide by 46, 44, which in that case is 113.91. Then the last one is 5166. You divide by 5290. Then you multiply by 100, which in that case is 5166 divided by 52 what? 90. That case is giving us 97.66%. That is how you get for the what? When you use the chain what? Chain based method. That is on the simple index numbers. Simple index numbers. Now the category number two of index numbers. Category number two of index numbers. Category number two of index numbers is what we call is the index numbers, is what we call the general index numbers. General index numbers. General index number. So for the simple index number, we say that an index number is said to be simple if it involves what? Only one word or single commodity. So. Now for the general, in this case, if it involves more than one commodity, that is what when it's said to be what? A general index number. So you write and say, an index number is called general. An index number is called general if it involves more than one commodity. If it involves more than one commodity. It is obtained by computing. It is obtained by computing the symbol indices. The symbol indices for each of the commodity. Symbol indices for each of the commodity. And then computing the average of the indices. And then computing the average of the indices. And then computing the average of the indices for the period. For the period. So in this case, you said you are dealing with more than one word commodity. So you write and say an example. Compute the general price indices. Compute the general price indices for the following table. Price indices for the following table. Compute the following price indices for the following tables. In this case, I will write the prices per unit. And in this case, I can have sugar, milk, bread. Yes, I can have sugar, milk, bread, and flour. So I can have here 2017, 2018, 2019, and year 20 what? Year 2020. Let's assume in year 20, this one was 80, 90, 110, 130. This one you can give it 30, 40, 70, and 90. This one also you can have it as 25, 35, 45, and 60. 20, this is 60, 80, 100 is 100 and what? 20. So we want to know the general what? Price index. So what we've said in this case, you compute the price index for each of the what? Every item. And after you compute it, you will now get the general index by taking the average. So I will have here the year. I will have here, we have sugar, milk, bread, then we have the flour. And then I can get the general price indices. General price indices. So in year 2017, so in this case, mostly you use the fixed base. So you normally use the fixed base. So in this case, if I take 80 over 80, I multiply by 100, 80 over 80, I multiply by 100, it will give you how much? 100. So we've said in this case, you have to compute the index number for each and every what? Item. Like for 2018, in this case, it will be given by 90 over what? 80 you multiply by 100. Inakupea ngapi? That is 90 divided by 80 multiplied by 100, which in that case is giving you 112.5. The other one will be 110 over 80 multiplied by 100. I'm taking in this case, that is 2019. This one will be 137.5. The other one is 130 divided by 80 multiplied by 100. That is 162 point what? That is year 2020. The same case you do with this, that is 30. This one will be 100. 40 over 30. 40 you divide by 30, which in this case will be 133.3. The other one will be 70 over 30. You divide by 30, which is 233.3. The one will be 90 over 30, which in that case is 3 what? 300. For bread, will also be 25. This is 100. 35 over 25, which in that case is 140. 45 over 25, which in that case is 180. The other one is 60 divided by how much? 25, which in that case is 240. The same case for the last one, this is 100. 80 you divide by 60, which in that case is 133.3. 100 you divide by 60, 166.7. The other one is 120, you divide by 60, which in that case is what? 2 100. So. Now, in our case, if you want to get the general index number, we've said first you compute the index numbers for each and every commodity, then you get the average. So the index number in this case will be 100 plus 100 plus 100 plus 100. You divide by what? How many items? 4, which in that case it will be 100. So that is how you get the general index number. This one will be 112.5 plus 133.3 plus 140. You also add 133.3. Then you divide by what? 133.3. Then you divide by 4. This will be 112.5. You add 133.3. You also add 140. You add 133.3. In that case, you divide by 4. It's 129.775. Then we also have the other one. You also take 137.5 plus 233.3 plus 180 plus 166.7. Then you divide by what? By 4 again, which in that case itakupea ngapi? 137.5, 233.3. You also add 180, you add 166.7. and you divide by 4, which in that case is 179.375. The last one will be 162.5. You add 300, you add 240, you add 200, and then you divide by 4. If you take that, this is 162.5, you add 300, you add 240, add 200, then you divide by 4, which is 2.625. And that is how you get the general index numbers. So, is it okay up to that? Yeah, that is how you get the general index numbers. Now, and that was on the category number 2. So, we now get to the last category, which is number 3. And the last category, number 3, is what we call the weighted index numbers. The weighted index numbers. Weighted index. Weighted index numbers. Weighted index numbers. Weighted index numbers. So on the weighted index numbers, you write and say, weighted index numbers, you write and say, these are general numbers. These are general numbers which they are recognized. These are general number index numbers which recognize different importances. Recognize different importances of the commodities to the consumer. Different importances of the commodity to the consumer. Say the level of importance are used. Or are realized. You can say are used or realized through the use of the weights. Through the use of the weights. The use of weights. Through the use of weights. Say there are two methods. Used depending on how. The weights are determined. Depending on how the weights are determined. A, we have the weighted aggregate method. Aggregate weight method. And B, we have what we call the weighted price relative. That is the weighted price relative method. Weighted average price relative method. Average price relative method. Average price relative method. So let's begin with the first one, weighted aggregate method. Weighted aggregate method. This is now where you get a majority of the questions. Sawa. And in that case, the only thing that you need to know is just the formulas. Ukielewa hapa kwa index numbers, ukielewa formulas, kwako hakunaga shida. Sawa. Just understand the formulas. So we write and say on the weighted aggregate method, write and say this is where weights are determined. This is where weights are determined on the basis of the quantity, on the basis of the quantity produced, on the basis of quantity produced, consumed or sold, consumed or sold, consumed or sold. Say there are four approaches. There are four approaches in this method. In this method, four approaches used in this method, which are named after persons, which are named after persons, which are named after persons who discovered them, who discovered them. Now, Roman 1, we have what we call the last pairs price index. Last pairs method. Let's begin with that. Last pairs method. Last pairs method. Say this method uses the base period values. This method uses the base period values, as the weights. The base period values as the weights. So for you to get the last pairs price index will be the summation of Pn, that is the current value, you multiply by Qo, you divide by the summation of Po, Qo, then you multiply by 100. And that is the last pairs price index. Sawa. Because here they will ask you the last pairs price index or wakuulize the last pairs quantity what? Index. So that is how you get that. If they ask you about the last pairs quantity index, the last pairs quantity index, it will be the summation of QNPO all over the summation of POQO multiplied by 100. Sawa. Whereby in this case in this case utakuwa umepewa prices and quantities. We'll also be able to look at some of these examples. Sawa. You will be given prices for given years and quantities for the same year and other years. Sawa. For you to compute this, we'll also be able to see such questions. We'll also be able to see such questions. Now, method number two is what we call the passes method. The passes method. Say this method uses the weights. This method uses the weights of the previous. This method uses the weights of the current values, or the current period values of the current periods of the current period values of the current period values. So in this case, if you want to get the purchase price index, it will be given by the summation of PNQN all over the summation of POQN. You multiply by what? 100. PNQN by Q PN POQN. You multiply by that. Then if they ask you about the purchase quantity index, it will be the summation of QN PN all over the summation of QO PN. You multiply by what? You multiply by 100. Multiply by the 100. Then number Roman 3 is what we call the Fisher's method. The Fisher's method. Fisher's method. Fisher's method. Same. Fisher's method. Fisher's method. This is the geometric mean. This is the geometric mean of the last pairs method, and versus method. Last pairs method and versus method. Last pairs method and versus method. So for you to get the Fisher's price index will be the square root of the last pairs price index. You multiply by the purchase price what? Index. If you want to get the Fisher's quantity index, same case, it will be the square root of the last pairs quantity index. You multiply by the purchase quantity what? Index. That is how you get those values. The last one is number 4. Number 4 is what we call the Marshall Edgeworth method. Marshall Edgeworth method. Say this method considers both the year's values, both the base year's values. This method considers both the base year's value and the current year's values, as weights, and the current year's values as weights, and the current year's values as weights. So for you to get the Marshall price index, it will be given by the summation of Pn Qo plus Qn. You divide by the summation of Po Qo plus Qn. You multiply by 100. If you want to get the Marshall quantity index, it will be given by the summation of Qn Po plus Pn all over the summation of Qo PO plus PN, then you multiply by 100, then you multiply by 100, multiply by 100. So we can try an example on the same. Can try an example. Can try an example on the same. Examples on the same. November 2015. November 2015. November 2015. Question number 5B. November 2015. Question 5B. November 2015. Question 5B. November 2015. November ni mbili. Sawa sawa. Remember, I'm talking about for the one for ATD. I'm not talking about the ATC. Unajua mnatumia the one for ATC, si ndio? You have seen the one for ATD. It's not there. 2015. You have seen it. Wakati umeiona? Ndio hiyo tu. Are you sure it's not there? Yes, I know. Where do you have September 2015? For that paper, haiko imetolewa. Yes, this one. Huh? Yes. I've said question number? 5. No, should be question number 1C. Yeah, 1C, not 5. Question 1C. November 2015 should be question number 1 note. 1C. Now, this is what we're being told there. The following information relates to the expenditure of a certain family during the years 2013 and 2014. We have the year there, year 2013. We also have for the year 2014. We've been given the quantity and also the price per unit. Now, you are required the last payers price index and also the purchase what? Price index. In this case also we can add the features and also the what? The marshal tufanye zote. Since how? Okay, let us all of them here. So in this case, what we'll need to know, we have what we call the POQO. And in this case, we've said POQO, those are the base areas. I mean the base values. So in that case, I will have the year. Is it the item? I mean, I will have the item. I will have kwanza tujue the QO. CQO itakuwa for the base year. A base year itakuwa which year? 2013. Kuna 2014 na tuna 20 what? Base year inakuanga the previous year. Sawa? So that is QO. We'll know QO and we also know what? PO. Sawa sawa. QO na PO. Are we together? That is A, B, C, and D. So what is our PO? PO is 120. Ndio. We also have 60, right? Right? We also have 80, 200, and here we have how much? 40. Sawa. Are we together? Then we also have here PO ni ngapi? 6, 12, 10, 4 na what? So we also know QN and we also have the PN. QN ni ngapi? Senior 2014, the quantity, right? 2014 ni ngapi? 160, 80, 40. And this one is what? 300. And we also have 20. Sawa sawa. Then we also have for 2014 price is 8, 10, 16. We also have 4 and we have what? 20. Sawa sawa. Now they want us to get the purchase price index. Kwa pamoja. And to get the purchase price index, we've said you get it by taking the summation of PNQO all over the summation of POQO. You multiply by what? 100. Sawa sawa. So kwanza inamaanisha lazima tupate PNQO ndio tupate the summation hapa. Are we together? We get the summation there. Kwa pamoja. And then also we'll also require POQO ndio pia tupate the summation yake wapi? Summation yake hapo. That is how the first one. Sawa sawa. So in that case tutapata hiyo hapo. Then they also want us to get the last pairs price what? Index. Juu nataka kwanza ukijua formula, that is when now you may be able to compute it. Sawa sawa. Which in this case it will be the summation of. Now for the last pairs we said is PNQN, right? You divide by the summation of what? How do we get the last pairs? Sivyo ndo tumeandika. Are we together? Umeona nini? Yeah? Iko hivyo? Hivyo ndo tumeandika. Are we together? Yes, that is how you get that. Are we together? Yes? Haiko sawa? Tuko kwa last pairs, not the I'm not on the purchase price index. Oh, hapa tume confuse. Tulikuwa tuanze na last pairs. Last pairs ndo hii. Na mniambi, si ndio? Sasa hii ndio purchase. Si ndio? Are we together? Sasa mmeanza kusahau. Si hivi ndio tumeandika? Siko sawa? Okay. So meaning that in this case, we need to get what? PN, QN. We have PO, QN. Hakuna. So we also have to look for PO, QN. Kwa pamoja. As a result of this. Sawa sawa. Now the other one is Marshall price index. Hapa nimeamua tu tutafute index peke yake. Sawa sawa. So for the Marshall price index or Fisher's price index, in this case itakuwa to the last pairs price index multiplied by the purchase price index. Sawa sawa. And then the last one is Marshall what? which in this case, how do we get the martial price index? We say this Pn, the summation of Pn, QO, QO, Qn, you divide by the summation of PO, QO, Qn, and then you multiply by 100. Sawa sawa. Are we together? Nimekuambia hizi ukijua hizo ni hivyo. Kwa pamoja. Okay, meaning that in this case now, we can now get what? We can also get the Pn, QO, Qn, pia tupate PO, QO, Qn. Si sawa? Ndio hizi sasa zitatusaidia kupata hizi zingine. Kwa pamoja. So we begin. We know this is PNQO. Sawa sawa. So ni kumaanisha ni E na E. Sawa sawa. So in that case, what is 120 multiplied by 8? Takupea ngapi? 960. The other one is 600. What is the 80 you multiply by 16? 12? 12 80. This is 200 you multiply by 4? 800. And then also 40 you multiply by 20. It will also be what? 800. And then you get the summation. 1600, you add 1280, you add 600, add 960. Umepata ngapi? 4440. 20 POQO, hizi zinafuatana hapa. 120 you multiply by 6 is 7 what? This is also 720. 800. This is 800. This is how much? 4. I'm 14, not 420. 14 you multiply by 40. 560. 560. Get the total? It is 1600 as 720. 720. Kupea ngapi? That is 600. PNQN. So it is 160 you multiply by 160. You multiply by 8, which in that case is 12. 80. 160 you multiply, 800, 80 you multiply by 10, 800. This is 640. This is 1200. This one is 400. So 1280 plus 800 plus 640, 1200 plus 400. That case itakupea ngapi? 43, 20. Now we also have POQN. POQN. PO is 6, so ndo easy. 16 you multiply by 60. 16 multiply, that is 160 you multiply by 6. That is 960. This is also 960. This is 400. That is 1200. This is 280. 14 times 20. That is 280. So if you add that, itakupea ngapi? Menyamaza. How much are you getting? Yes. 13, 38, 100. Mliacha kuniambia sasa nikasema, I will now try to get the values. Now, in this case, you have Pn, QO plus Qn. So QO plus Qn, which is 160 plus 120, then you multiply by Pn. Pn is 8, which in that case, it is 2240. The same case, QO plus this 140, then you multiply by Pn, which is 10. In that case, it will give you what? 1400. Then also we have 80 plus 40, which is 120. 120 you multiply by 16. You multiply by 16. That case inakupea 1920. Then the other one is QO 200 plus 300, 500. You multiply by 4 to 2000. The last one is 40. You add 20, 60. 60 you multiply by 20, 12. And that case itakupea ngapi? 1200 plus answer plus 1400, 2000, 2240. Pata ngapi? 87. Then we also have the last one, PO. PO, then QO, QN. So it is 280. First one is 280. You multiply by PO, which is 6. That is 16. 80. Then we also have 140 multiplied by 12, which in that case is also 16. 80. Then also we have 120 multiplied by 10, which in that case is 1200. Then we have 200 plus 300, that is 500. You multiply by 4, which is 2000. Then we have 40 plus 20, which is 60. You divide by 40 by 14, which is 80. 840. That is 840. With that now we can get the total plus 2000 plus 1200 plus 1680 plus 1680, which is 7400. Sawa 7400. And now ukipata hizo sasa unaweza usiweka hapa. Hii ya kwanza, the summation of PNQO is 4440. You divide by summation of PQO, which is 36 times 100. In that case is 4440. Divide by 3600. Then you multiply by 100, which is 123.33%. So the other one is PNQN, which is 4320. You divide by 4320, you divide by POQN, which is at 800, multiply by 100. 4320 divided by 3800, which in that case is 113.68%. Then the other one is here, this one, which in that case is just the square root of 123.33 multiplied by 113.68. That is 123.33 multiplied by 113.68. Then you take the square root of answer, which in that case is 118.41%. Then the last one, PNQO, which is 87cc. You divide by 74. Then you multiply by 100. 8760 divided by 7400 multiply by 100, which in that case is 118.38%. That is how you get those values. That is how you get the values. Sawa sawa. So mnaona ni rahisi. Hiyo ukijua the formulas ni hivyo. Are we together? Yes. If you know the formulas, in that case, you are done. So the last area is on what we call the purchasing power, or the second area, these ones. We've talked about the weighted aggregate. Sawa sawa. Are we together? So let's talk about the last one. Last one. Last one. The last one, which is now the weighted average price relatives index. That was number B, weighted average of price relative method. A was the weighted aggregate. Sawa. And the weighted aggregate is whereby we've been able to see all those other values. So with the weighted average of price relative, this method you write uses values as weights. Uses values as weights. Uses values as weights. What and say? And say the values are obtained. The values are obtained by multiplying the quantities. Values are obtained by multiplying the quantities with the prices. By multiplying the quantities with the prices. So for you to get the index in this case, you normally take the summation of IP over the summation of what? V. Summation of IP, where I is the price relative and the V is the value. And you to get the value is just the PO you multiply by what? QO. PO multiply by the QO. An example? An example? Compute the index for the following data. Compute the index for the following data. Compute the index for the following data using the weighted average price relative method. Using the weighted average price relative method. Using the weighted average price relative method. So in this case, we'll have the year. Okay, I will have year 2019. I will have also year 2020. And in that case, I will have, let's say we have the items. Let me have the milk, sugar, salt, and then we'll have the bread. So in this case, I will have the quantity and also the price. Quantity in this case, I can say 200, 300, 150. And this one I can have 80. Price, this is at 30, 20. That is at 60, 30. And this one at 80. 80. Then in year 2020, I will have only the price. The price in year 2020, I will only have the price. In this case, I can have 35. This one I can have it as 65, 45, 90. and 90. So we want to get the price average that is the weighted average price relative what of these index of these values that we have here. Where in this case we have the item. So first, for us to get the I is the price relative, which is now the price index. And for us to get I, it will just be Pn all over PO, you multiply by 100. So Pn over PO, you multiply by 100. So ndo tupate I. Now, for us to get the P, tumesema you take PO, you multiply by QO. Sawa. And then meaning that at the end of it, we'll be able to get the what? IV. You will take the index you multiply by IV. That is the value to pattern the IV. So in that case, we begin with milk. So for the milk, we'll use which one as our base? We know it will be 35 all over what? Unit price that multiplied by 100. Itakupea ngapi? Remember, this is our PON. Sawa. And this is our PO. So itakupea ngapi? 116.67. We also have for this case in sugar itakuwa ngapi? 65 over 60 multiplied by 100 itakupea ngapi? Salt, it will be also 150 45 over 30 multiplied by 100. This one imekupea ngapi? 108. Yes. 0.33. This one? Yes? 150. And then the last one is 90 over what? 80 you multiply by 100. Itakupea ngapi? Yeah? 1.5. So we can now get the P, which we said is PO, QO. So in that case, it is this you multiply by this, which will be 6,000. This one is how much? 18,000. This one, 4,500. This one, 1,600. This one is 64 and 6400. So with that now we can get the last one. Take this, you multiply by this. 116.67 you multiply by 6,000. 6,000. Kwani hii nimefanya aje? Hii ni hii ya kwanza iko sawa. This you multiply by this. Hapa ni 6,000. Na hii ya pili 18,000. So hii ndio inafaa kuwa 18,000. Ya tatu 45, si ndio? Na hii hivyo. Okay, so hii itakupea ngapi? 116.67 you multiply by that. Yes. 700. 020. The second one. Yes. 108.33. 1949. 940. 1949. 940. The other one. 675. Mwisho. Yes. 7,000. So get the total now of year and year for us to know what will be the index. What is the total of V? IB. Total ni ngapi? 40? Yes? I 75? 75 400. Okay, 75 400. So in that case, it means that this will be 40, 44, 960. Divide by 75, 400. So inakupea ngapi? Umepata ngapi? Yeah, ni ngapi? 34, 900. So it is 34, 900. So unapata ngapi ukidivide? When you divide, you get enough 150.90. That is how supposed to be done. 115. 115.9. Okay. Yes. That is how supposed to do that one. That is how you supposed to do that one. Sawa. Now the last part is what we call the consumer price index. That is now what I want to talk about, the consumer price index. Consumer price index is also what we call the purchasing power price index. Consumer price index, what we call the purchasing power price index. Consumer price index, what we call the purchasing power price index. Consumer price index, what we call the purchasing what? Purchasing power price index. Can call it the purchasing power price index, or in other cases you can also call it the cost of living index. The cost of living index. So you write and say, this is used to show, the consumers, the changes in consumers. This is used to show the changes in consumers, purchasing power, consumers purchasing power, or the standards of living, When the index increases, the standards of living declines. Uses of consumer price index. Number one, negotiation of wages by trade unions. Developing policies by the government, such as the minimum wage price control, The other one, analysis of security situations, And the last one is analysis of markets and production. So there are two methods. Used in computing consumer price index. There are two methods used in computing consumer price index. Using computing the consumer price index. A is what we call the aggregate expenditure method. And the B is what we call the family budget method. So aggregate expenditure method. Same. This uses quantity. As weights. So E ni kama tu what we call the last payers price index. Sasa, are we together? The aggregate expenditure method is just the last payers. Whereby, how do you get the last payers? Sema ni PN QO. You divide by PO. QO you multiply by. And sawa. Are we together? Yeah, hiyo ndo hiyo. Now, number 2 is the family budget. Now, for the family budget, now unatumianga ile the weighted what? Average of price relative methods. Sawa. The weighted average of price relative method. Whereby tulisema together you get the what? The summation of IV you divide by summation of what? B. Sawa sawa. IB and you divide by that. Sini sawa. Are we together? Yes. So these or two the same. It's not different. Are we together? Yes. So with that, these are the questions that you do as assignment. That these are questions that you do as assignment. And before you write the question, malizia on limitations of index numbers. Limitations of index numbers. Number one, it is not practical. It is not practical to price all goods and services. It is not practical to price all goods and services, as well as taking into account the changes in quantity and quality. Changes in quantity and quality. Changes in quality and quantity. Number two, sampling errors cannot be avoided. Sampling errors cannot be avoided completely. Cannot be avoided completely. The one, it is difficult to avoid. It is difficult to identify. Use the word identify. It is difficult to identify a normal period. It's difficult to identify a normal period. Then the last one, the results obtained using the different methods. The results obtained using different methods may not be the same. Using different methods may not be the same. How many are those? May not be the same. Hizo nne. Ongeza ya tano. The method of average selected may not be suitable. May not be suitable. May not be suitable. May not be suitable. Also, comparison on items over a long period of time may not be reliable. Comparison of items over a longer period of time may not be reliable. May not be reliable. Now, these are the questions that you do. Assignments. You do on the sitting of May 2019. Question 2B. May 2019, question 2B. Also do in the sitting of May 2018. May 2018. Question 2D. We will also do the other one is on the sitting of November 2016. November 2016. Question number 5A. 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 Then the last one is May 2016. Question 5B. 5B. So those are the ones that you do as assignment, and we'll now continue from there.